A man reached out to the FAA, or Federal Aviation Administration, troubled by a series of recurring nightmares. For 10 consecutive days upon awakening from these unsettling dreams, he grappled with an intense and overwhelming sense of despair. Each nightmare ended exactly the same: the crash of a large aircraft with a single word written on its side: American. Hello and welcome back to Terrifying Tales and Haunted Locations. In today's tale, the distinction between the supernatural and superstition blurs, and a man's nightmares transform into a harsh reality, leading the residents of a Chicago neighborhood with unexpected and mysterious phenomena. On May 25, 1979, the boarding process commenced for American Airlines Flight 191 at Chicago O'Hare's Airport. The aircraft on the schedule for the flight to Los Angeles International Airport in California was the McDonnell Douglas DC-10, which was state-of-the-art at the time. After all passengers were settled and the cabin secured, the captain was notified and the aircraft was then pushed back from the gate. The DC-10, a tri-jet wide-body aircraft, had been in commercial passenger service for nearly 9 years. Throughout this period, it had accumulated an impressive track record of over 20,000 trouble-free flying hours. American Airlines had operated the DC-10 for almost 8 of those 9 years. Captain Walter Lux, a seasoned pilot with 8 years of experience in the DC-10 since its introduction into the fleet, was in command. Additionally, First Officer James Dillard and Flight Engineer Alfred Udovic were both very experienced in the DC-10, accumulating over 20,000 flying hours specifically in the DC-10, making up the rest of the flight crew. Following the completion of the pre-flight checks, Flight 191 received clearance for takeoff. As it accelerated down the runway, and as the aircraft's nose wheel began to lift off the ground, engine number 1 on the left-hand side detached from the wing. The separated engine flipped over the top of the wing and rolled back down the runway. Despite this, the aircraft continued a relatively normal climb. However, moments later, it began an unexpected turn to the left. The events unfolding in the cockpit during the 50 seconds following the engine detachment until the aircraft impacts the ground remains unknown. The cockpit voice recorder, or CVR, lost power, with several other crucial system failures, including electrical issues and the failure of the number 1 hydraulic system. The cockpit voice recorder, or CVR, captured only one crash-related sound, a thumping noise. The National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, believes this noise corresponds to the engine detaching from the wing. Following this, a crew member exclaims "damn" as the crew quickly assesses the situation, and then the recording abruptly ends. The aircraft had climbed to approximately 320 feet above the ground, releasing fuel and hydraulic fluid from the left wing. The loss of hydraulics on the left side resulted in the leading edge slats becoming immobilized, causing the left wing to experience a complete aerodynamic stall. During this stall, the aircraft tilted to the left and rolled onto its side, a tragic moment captured in the most iconic photograph of the incident. Shortly after, the DC-10 crashed into a nearby field, approximately 4,600 feet from the end of the runway, carrying a full load of fuel. The impact was catastrophic, resulting in debris being flung into an adjacent trailer park, destroying 5 trailers and several cars. Alongside the 271 passengers and crew on board, 2 employees at a nearby garage lost their lives, and several others sustained severe injuries. The subsequent NTSB investigation identified the cause of the crash as an asymmetrical stall triggered by the loss of the engine and pylon assembly at a critical moment during takeoff. The separation was found to be due to inadequate maintenance procedures. In the days, weeks, and months following the tragic disaster, amid the collective grief for those lost, reports of eerie encounters began circulating to local police. Motorists described witnessing strange white lights flickering in the field where the aircraft had crashed. Initially, these sightings were attributed to souvenir hunters, but responding officers consistently found the field deserted. Residents of the trailer park, which was close to the crash site, also started reporting peculiar phenomena, such as knocking and tapping at their doors and windows. Notably, some of those individuals reporting these occurrences were off-duty police officers and firefighters. Upon investigating the sounds, they found no one in the vicinity. The bizarre incidents escalated to involve audible footsteps, door handles rattling, and even being turned. Certain residents asserted that they had opened their doors to find a concerned-looking man standing on their doorstep, urgently expressing the need to retrieve luggage or make a connection, only to witness the mysterious figure vanish into the darkness. Dog owners in the trailer park reported their dogs barking incessantly at an empty field where the crash had occurred, displaying behavior their own owners couldn't explain. Moans and cries were also reported emanating from the dark, vacant area. The unsettling occurrences prompted some residents to move away from the park, unable to endure the eerie phenomena. Nevertheless, newcomers quickly found themselves experiencing the same inexplicable occurrences. One man recounted walking his dog near the crash site when a young man approached, claiming to need an emergency phone call. Initially cautious due to the smell of gasoline and apparent smoldering, the man assumed that the young man had been running, and his body heat must have caused steam in the cold night air. However, when he turned away briefly to point out the location of the public phone and looked back, the young man had vanished. This encounter prompted him to reconsider the stories of paranormal activities following the crash, as he became convinced that he had encountered one of the restless souls from American Flight 191 that night. However, the stories of hauntings and subsequent personal accounts of paranormal phenomena and apparitions are not the only peculiar aspects of the ill-fated Flight 191. The designation Flight 191 has earned an unfortunate reputation as an ominous flight number. Aeroflot Flight 191, which crashed in 1963 during its final approach to Ashgabat International Airport, resulting in 12 fatalities. In 1967, X-15 Flight 191, an experimental test plane, disintegrated mid-flight, claiming the life of the test pilot. Prinair Flight 191 crashed in Puerto Rico in 1972, resulting in 5 casualties. American Airlines Flight 191 crashed in Chicago in 1979, causing a total of 273 fatalities. Delta Airlines Flight 191 met its tragic end during its final approach to Dallas-Fort Worth in 1985, with 137 lives lost. Comair Flight 191 crashed on takeoff while departing from the wrong runway in Kentucky in 2006, resulting in 49 fatalities. In 2012, JetBlue Flight 191 experienced a harrowing mid-flight emergency. During the flight, the captain was locked out of the cockpit and restrained by the passengers. The first officer first became alarmed when the captain started making disturbing statements regarding faith, questioning the accuracy of the destination airport, and asserting not to be held responsible if the plane crashed. Consequently, the first officer cleverly lured the captain out of the cockpit, locked the door, and changed the security code. Concerned passengers subdued the captain, using seatbelt extenders to restrain him. Fortunately, an off-duty JetBlue pilot traveling as a passenger assisted the first officer in the cockpit, and the plane safely diverted to Amarillo, Texas. While some may dismiss crashes involving similarly numbered flights as mere coincidence, the cumulative impact of these incidents has led to arguments suggesting that Flight number 191 could be considered ominous or superstitious. Unmistakably, however, some airlines do not assign Flight number 191 to future scheduled flights. Interestingly, the nightmares haunting the gentleman for 10 consecutive nights before the crash of Flight 191 depicted a large plane taxiing onto the runway on a beautiful sunny day. The plane would take off, only to perilously roll and invert itself before tragically crashing into the ground. Unfortunately, these harrowing visions have continued to replay in his subconscious for decades following the crash of Flight 191. The question arises, were these nightmares premonitions of the impending tragedy, or were they simply just coincidences? Share your thoughts in the comments. That's all for now. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. It helps out the channel. And let us know if there are any terrifying tales or haunted locations that you would like to see in the future. Until next time, thank you for watching.